Previously on the Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
I'm a little insensitive to victim complex, meaning, the one thing I will say is if you get on stage in a room that says harsh feedback, you're going to get it straight, and you aren't ready for that, don't put yourself in that position. I don't believe in the victim complex of like, oh, well, I tried, but you still shouldn't be mean. Like, that's not right. I don't do the pity party thing on the other side. Like the pain points and the struggles of running a business, I'm not public about because I don't think there's it's not productive.
It's nefarious, man. Like the brain works in fucked up ways.
The mind is one of the most deceiving, manipulative pieces of equipment, flesh, human bodies on earth. I never have trusted my brain.
All of that weight lives in your head, and you are the decision maker.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Hi, it's Ronsley. If this is your first volume, welcome. This is a weekly series where I go inside the mind of an entrepreneur, artist, athlete, academic to decipher what is the psychology of our decisions. I'm Australian and I'd like to acknowledge our traditional custodians of country where I live and work. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge our continuous connection and contribution to land, sea, and community. It's been a while, hey. Lots of changes, and since this is the Psychology of Entrepreneurship, it is probably important that I address the break that I took over the last few months. At the end of May, my grandma died in India after having COVID-19 for 3 days. For what may seem like obvious reasons now, I stopped everything. Both podcasts stopped publishing. I wanted to take a break to process it all. What was the biggest impact was that I couldn't go back to say bye. I'm in Australia and haven't left these shores for what seems like forever. Anyway, I'm back and I've missed you. For me to get my rhythm back, this show will be released monthly until I'm comfortable in increasing that frequency. But enough about me. My guest today is an entrepreneur that I admire a lot. She's done lots of cool things, including most recently created her own $1 million business in a year called Her Empire Builder. She's a powerhouse. You'll see her book, $1 Million Micro Business, in bookstores everywhere. With all the cool things, there is one thing that is the biggest of all the things.
I think one of the biggest things, and this is why I'm so passionate about being loud about what I do as well, is so much of the examples that we see super successful businesses. Like I was talking about Gary Vee yesterday to someone, and he's got the whole attitude of, while they sleep, we work and we hustle and we grind. And a lot of people, I think, cap themselves at business growth because they go, actually, I want to have a balanced life. Like I want to be able to have a good relationship with my partner. I want to be able to be a good parent. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to do all these things. I don't want to just run a business. And so they think that if running a really successful 7-figure profitable business means saying goodbye to all of that. And so people will often just cut themselves off from it. And so I'm really intentional about being an example of going, you don't need to be famous. You don't need to hustle and grind all the time. You can actually package what you know and share it with other people. I mean, the software and the technology that's available to us now, like we couldn't do what we did 5 years ago. Like it just wasn't there. It's now so easy, so accessible. You need no tech knowledge. You just need to show yourself as a human.
Showing up as yourself. Yes, that seems quite simple to say, but not that easy to execute, especially if you haven't shed that stupid voice that keeps saying, what will they think? More about that in this volume coming up, and how also to build your business around you and your expression. But before that, I wanted to know, what was Tina's most exciting memory when she thinks back on her entrepreneurial journey?
I remember opening my first franchise, and weirdly, my first franchise was in Cairns, north of Australia. And I walked down the street when I got there. I got out of the airport and went to make my way to the hotel. And down the street, I saw a little girl walking with my Begin Bright bag, which was what my company was called, on her shoulder, just walking along, like talking to her mum, smiling. And I was like walking along the other side of the street going, oh my God, that's mine. That's mine. That's mine. And that was so incredibly exciting. And then like that afternoon went to the center, and it was the first time I'd seen all our signage on someone else's building without me doing it. That was probably one of the best. That's, as soon as you said that, that's what sticks in my mind the most.
One of the stories in Tina's book is where she got this comment from a guy who told her that she giggles a lot and that makes her sound less professional. Actually, I'll let Tina explain.
I had someone when I started my podcast like send me in the email saying, you know, I think your content is really good, but if you want to be taken seriously, you've got to kind of cut it with the giggle, you know? And I am a giggler. I just do like emotion. I'm a highly charged emotional person, and it bubbles out of me. And one of the best parts about getting older was I started business when I was 20, and through my early 20s, I had an educational toy store, and even trying to get trade accounts and all of that sort of thing, people would ask to speak to my parents or speak to my husband. And I was really taken as like this airhead because I wore rainbow clothing and I laughed a lot and was just really enthusiastic about life. And as I kind of hit 30 and then beyond, it flipped to now you ask most people, oh, Tina Tower, do you know her? And a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, I love her energy, her vibrancy, like her enthusiasm. And now that I'm older, it's taken as a lot of energy, whereas when I was younger, it was taken as, you know, she's just a ditzy airhead. So I'm really grateful for age for that. But nothing about my personality has changed. So I'm always really careful to never underestimate girls, because they're really capable of a lot if you treat them seriously. I mean, anybody is. And so, yeah, I think one of the best parts that I've seen is that we can come in all different flavors and all shapes and sizes and all personality types. And that's one thing that I've really started to see being embraced in the last kind of 5 years, especially, is not having to stick with, like the lecturer told me that I wasn't suited for the corporate world because I didn't fit like the traditional dude in his suit taking life super seriously. That's really what it came down to. Maybe I could have gone into the corporate world and given massive, bland, vanilla companies the shake-up that they needed. We'll never know. But I'm glad that he steered me off that path. Obviously, I've created a life that I absolutely love, but I love that now you can be who you are a lot more.
Did you know the latest biggest threat to women expressing themselves is Afghanistan? Afghan women know the Taliban's history all too well. When the Taliban were previously in power from 1996 to 2001, they banned most education for women and girls and confined women to their homes unless a male family member was with them, denying them access to most jobs or even freedom to leave their house for a walk.
I think in general, as entrepreneurs listening to this podcast, having a perspective on how lucky we are to be able to express ourselves is just important. A lot of humans right now are not having that much luck in doing that. Our ancestors definitely didn't. I think we've all got to step back, get out of our own way, and serve the people with the gifts we've been blessed with. Huh? Anyway, rant over. Tina, were you always entrepreneurial?
No, I spent a lot of my early life not knowing who I was or what I wanted to do. I mean, I came out of high school. I wanted to be a lawyer in high school, and I did work experience as a lawyer and went to court and went into court on work experience, and they were trying this case where I was actually on the criminal lawyer side, and he was a rapist, and everything was trying to get him off. And that was like so the moment that I was like, okay, this isn't the world for me. I don't want this to be like my everyday life and what we're exposed to. I think people in those fields and in medicine and in all the things where you're seeing people at their worst times on their worst days and dealing with really heavy stuff, I just knew at that time I didn't want that for my life. And so I then went, okay, looked at my grades really and went, what else should I go into? And saw business, went into business, did that and got to the end of my first year, and I had a lecturer pull me aside and tell me that he didn't think I had the right constitution for the corporate world and business and I should look at something else. And to his credit, we designed like our corporate branding and our identity, and I had made these business cards with smiley faces on them. So I was always that way inclined. And so he said, maybe you should do something that's more appropriate for your personality and go into education. Because, you know, what else is a happy, bubbly girl supposed to do other than teach children? Turned out it was the best thing for me. I switched into an education degree, loved it, but then started my business second year of uni. And so I'd always done a lot of things. I was always, I know what I'm about to say could be misconstrued in a lot of different ways. I always thought I was made for more. I always thought I was going to do something great. I'd started getting into Anthony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki when I was like 15, 16. I went to my first personal development seminars and like getting into Amway as well and Network 21 and like different things that brought out that personal development and that idea that if you could, I know it sounds so corny, but the idea that if you could dream it, you could actually craft and design your life around whatever it is that you wanted to do and be. And I always kind of had that in me, but I didn't know what that was going to look like yet. And it's taken me a really long time. I feel like up until a few years ago, I was still finding that.
Expressing yourself is one thing as an entrepreneur. Selling your services and your business and yourself, that is new emotional barrier breaking territory.
Like talking of sales though, because I know where a lot of my clients, selling can be construed as like sleazy selling, and we don't want to sell to people. And also people don't like to be sold to. So that is a big thing as well. One of my friends, Colin Boyd, he has this system that he's trademarked called infusion selling. But one of my favorite sayings of his is selling is serving. And that really changed my mindset on selling in going, okay, if you look at where your customers are right now, they're wanting to get better on Clubhouse. They're wanting to repurpose their content. They don't know the tech to use. They don't know how to set up. They're flying blind. They're wasting so many hours. For $1,000, you can add tens of thousands of dollars to their bottom line, make their lives so much easier, give them training that they can use again and again, help their VAs, help all of this. If you just put that in front of them, you could be the perfect solution to their problem. So you're actually serving your customers by putting that offer front and center. Whereas if you hold back and you don't show yourself, you're doing your customers a disservice because they don't know it exists and you're not solving their problem.
Okay, Tina, you're the expert. Say we express ourselves to the best of our abilities, put ourselves out there. How do we sell? What's the secret?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of live launches. Like the limited launch formula is what I talk about all the time and going open cart for 8 days. My favorite thing about doing that is I only launch twice a year. So I go loud, I go heavy on sales for 8 days, but then I don't have to do it again for 6 months. So then I can focus that 6 months on just loving up my customers, adding value, not selling a damn thing, which I love. But then when you're into that sales period, everyone's there and everyone's been waiting for what you've got. And it's that sense of urgency. So everyone jumps in straight away. And you actually, it seems counterintuitive. I've tried evergreen courses that are open all the time, and the launch, you get far more with a short launch window than you do having it available all the time. So the only way evergreen really works is when you're funneling a bucket load of Facebook advertising to it. And you've got really beautiful funnels that are pumping with Facebook advertising with a price point that's like lower than $500. That can work really well. Or if you're famous. So like if you're someone that's known in the industry like Amy Porterfield, James Wedmore, Jasmine Starr, like they can do high price evergreen through Facebook advertising. But if you're just like a regular unfamous person, then you need to show yourself. And this is where I think I've just come off launch. So I'm very, very fresh on all of that. But the human element is your superpower.
So you just sell for 7 days?
Yeah, so that's your urgency and scarcity is the timeline, not the places. You don't need to cap the places. So an example of this, I had a client who said, you know what, my first one, I'm going to cap it at 100. We're going to do the live launch week. And I was like, don't cap it. She's like, no, I just want to do it there because I really want to be able to go, we sold out. You know, that's going to be a good thing. Anyway, a good thing for who? A good thing for you and your ego, or a good thing for all of the people that, you know, you could have helped that you didn't otherwise help? Anyway, she launched. We opened it at the evening. She woke up the next morning, 9 hours later, and she was at 103. And I'm like, so do you want to turn it off? She's like, well, yeah, I told everyone I'd cap it, so we got to turn it off. She was supposed to do a 7-day launch. So missed out. Not only did she miss out on the profit and the business building of all those people, but potentially hundreds of other people missed out on getting the benefit of her program and her service.
When we come back, preparing the launch, how to show up, and generational issues that are important for us to cover so that we can have equality.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Our aim with this audio documentary has always been to build a strong community of entrepreneurs and creatives to provide a space where they can use their voice to share their authenticity with the world. As a valued listener, your voice matters too. We love to hear your feedback and ideas, so don't be shy to let us know how we're doing in the ratings and comments. If you have a message for our production team or know someone who would be a perfect fit as a guest, you can find out more information on how to share your input at psychologyofentrepreneurship.com.
Before the break, we covered expression being the example and how to sell for just 7 days. But just selling for 7 days, there seems to be some prep work involved in that.
Yeah, so I call it the off season. And I think that the off season is actually more important than, I mean, I'm a sucker for like American football movies and all of the sport movies, so I use a lot of those analogies. But yeah, I think the training that you do beforehand and how you get primed is way more important than when the game is actually on. Because if you haven't done, what a lot of people do is they don't seed it and they don't prepare it, and then they just come out of the gate and they've got something open and launch, and people are like, what is this? And it's too much decision too quickly. And so between now and then, that's when you're getting people excited, but you're not giving them the option to buy it yet. And that can sometimes seem counterintuitive because you're like, hang on, but I want to strike while the iron's hot. While they're there and they're asking for it, I want them to be able to buy it. But you don't. You want to make them wait. You want to get them excited and say it's coming. So it's like between now and then, every conversation you have, you just drop in, Clubcasting is coming. Clubcasting, you may wonder, like, what is Clubcasting? This is what it is, or this is, yeah, and you get people excited. And then you have your free lead magnet.
We all know how much I love Clubhouse. I'm there every Tuesday, 7 a.m. Brisbane time. And I think that works out to 2 p.m. Pacific time on a Monday for those in North America, or in the past, as I call them. Also, that might change when daylight savings time change, so be aware of that. But 7 a.m. Brisbane time, join me on Clubhouse. It is the Psychology of Entrepreneurship Club, and we talk all about podcasting for business. Anyway, Tina, you must get this question, but what if I have nothing to sell?
Yeah. So I find, like, you mentioned beliefs before. A lot of people underestimate how much they actually know and how much valuable information that they have to share with other people. Because when someone's really, really good at something, it's so second nature. And so being able to actually break that down and go, all right, I have this that I can package and sell to the world is sometimes hard, because I'll talk to people and go, well, this is your thing. And they'll go, no. Like, everybody knows that, right? Like, that's so easy. I'm like, no, it's easy for you, but everybody else gets super confused by it. Like, sometimes there's things that I'll talk about and, people will go, oh my God, my mind is blown. This is incredible. And I'm like, really? Like, this is the simplest thing. But that's what makes it so good. So I think when you're looking at being able to scale the knowledge that you have is going, what is second nature to you? What are people asking you for advice for all the time? Because that's always the telltale, is sometimes we'll think we're really good at one thing and that this is our thing and this is what we're marketing ourselves as. But there could be like this constant stream of people that are coming going, I see you do this. How do you do this that you haven't actually pinpointed? And if you go with naturally what people are perceiving you as, then that often works really, really well. And then I go, you've got to love it. So this goes against what a lot of people say. I've seen people say, go with what's marketable and what can sell a lot. But I think if you don't truly love what you do, it's never going to work, because you have to talk about it so much again and again and again and again. And, we live in this, like you're talking about Clubhouse a lot, and it's really easy to pick up from people when they actually care about what they're talking about and when they're not. And people won't buy from you if they think you're just doing it to sell something. You've got to really believe in it. So that's kind of the few things in how to start.
According to unwomen.org, the most important thing you can do for equal rights is using your voice. From an article they released before International Women's Day, they say, whether you're talking to your friends and family or engaging with an advocacy organization, the most important way to be an advocate is speaking up by raising your voice for women's rights and gender equality. You can spread awareness and break down barriers.
I wonder to myself a lot. I'm a daydreamer. Well, you know that. But what I wonder most is, who is looking at me when I decide not to be brave and put myself out there? Tina continually does that. And actually, I need to compliment her on that. Tina, you show up so amazingly for yourself and for your people because they see what you're doing every day.
Thanks. Look, I think I am in a very lucky generation. The women in the generation before me worked really hard so that I can be who I am now. I think I'm one of the first generations that have been able to do that. And I see that a lot. Most of the women that I work with are older than me. They're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I see like a lot of the women, especially in their late 50s and 60s, have this hard exterior and this guard up a lot. And then they'll talk to me and they're endearing and beautiful and soft and feminine and amazing. And then when they step into public, up it comes again. And it's really hard to drop that guard and show themselves. And that is by design. That is because if that was done through their 20s and 30s, they were discounted. They were emotional women and they just wouldn't be welcome into those certain rooms. So they had to have this hard exterior and behave like men do in a lot of traditional situations. And I mean, I even think it's been great for men because men are now able as well to drop that freaking bravado exterior a lot that we've had to see held so much. I mean, I look at my sons now and I go, who they can be and the beliefs that they can hold and the way that they can behave is so different to the men before them. So, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of things. I don't notice it as much as the stories that have happened like from women before me. I only notice it with things like it happened. So I've got my second book coming out this year, and there was someone that I was dealing with whose name was Chris, and I thought it was Chris the girl. I'd only been speaking with them over email. And so we were like bantering back and forth and all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I love her. She's so funny. And like a month later, as we got into the process, and I realized Chris was a man. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I thought of all my correspondence and realized, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have said that. And had you asked me before that, I would have said, no, I don't talk any differently to men and women. No different at all. And then I realized, oh my gosh, so different. I was like, was that flirtatious? Was that, because we were bantering, right? We were having like this conversation back and forth. And so, yeah, that was quite interesting and polarizing to go, oh, yeah, I do have things that I didn't know that I had. So there is always the kind of censorship in doing that, and in business travel and in board meetings, and making sure you're never alone, and all of the things that are so naturally ingrained in us that we do have to be careful of. But I do, I see so much progress. I know it was International Women's Day this month, and so much of it is in the public eye, and there is so far to go. I mean, the domestic violence rates in Australia and the world are just incredibly terrible. We pay a lot of money for girls in Kenya for scholarships to go to school, because if they don't, they get married when they're 13 and 14, often to much older men. And it's just, the inequality in the world is still gapingly horrendous, but it's headed in the right direction. So I do a lot of work with the UN and their goals that they have, and they're aiming for so many things by 2030, and most people would say it's absolutely impossible. We've got 100 years before we're at gender equality, but I think that we're really underestimating the generation of people that are coming up under us, because I talk to a lot of teenage girls, and man, they have confidence. Like, they are ready to go. They're so many gender disparity issues are just not even a thing for them.
Yeah, you know how I feel about equality, about bias, about disparity. So I'm not going to go into that here today. Listen to previous volumes, especially the Death Row series and the Aboriginal Leaders series. So let's land this plane. Tina, final words, especially how do we show up as an entrepreneur?
So like you said with Clubhouse, right, is people can suss you out really, really quickly. And a lot of people, especially the people that I work with, have been working behind a brand, working behind the business for a long time, and not putting themselves to the forefront. But the more you're willing to show up and serve and give free content and lives and talk to people and connect and add value and just like a fire hydrant of beautiful, valuable information, then they get a sense of, okay, well, this is what it's like to work with you. You actually know your stuff. And then that's what converts really, really well. So even in, like, I've tested all the different social media images and tiles and all, if you don't put your face in it, it won't have anywhere near the result than if it's your face. And if it's your face that's actually moving, like a video or a reel, then even better. So you've got to show yourself. If you're not willing to show yourself and put yourself forward, you're not going to win the game.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Coming up on the Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
I can't possibly charge that much. Why not? Other people charge that much. Why can't you charge that much? When I'm presented with an opportunity, the filter through which I pass it through is, does this align with that bigger picture vision? If I say yes to this, is it bringing me closer to that bigger picture vision? I was so burnt out all the time because I was constantly focused on external metrics, and I was constantly placing my worth, my value, my success on things that were outside of my control.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
I interviewed Tina because Tina Tao is the author of One Life, How to Have the Life of Your Dreams, released in 2018, and now the author of the brand new book, $1 Million Micro Business. Get your book if you haven't already. I read it cover to cover. She has won the Telstra National Young Businesswoman of the Year Award. She is an Australian business champion, featured on The Today Show, in the Financial Review, on Sky Business, as well as The Businesswoman to Watch by Huffington Post. She is a coach to online course creators, a podcaster, business strategist, and my friend.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
This is a Must Amplify production. Special thanks to every guest expert that has appeared on the show. Editing, sound design, and voiceovers by Tiago Vega, Kaylee Bonnyman, and Paula Vega. produced and hosted by me, Ronsley Vaz. For more episodes and where to listen, please go to psychologyofentrepreneurship.com. Okay, so you listen to the end. Before you go, if you are a business and have a podcast, I have 7 templates that every podcaster needs to grow their business. If you would like a copy of that, please send me a DM on Instagram at Ronsley Vaz. I'll happily send it to you. It's been used in literally tens of thousands of episodes to help podcasters grow their shows. Send me a message, on Insta. Much love.